There's no easy way to hear. And all the memories you love to bring, with all the things that you hate to scream. So tell me, hollow on the inside, there's no trying to hide from this monster inside me. So if you try to criticize me like the world defines me, it is what I have become.
In terms of who the next head coach should be, I mean, I highly doubt Tommy Rees comes in and transforms the offense. If he ends up doing so, I wouldn't mind Jim Schwartz being the head coach, or maybe even Tommy, but I feel like Jim Schwartz has been here long enough. If anybody's going to get that promotion, it's him. And then having Tommy
Does
stick
he even
around, but
want
I
it?
don't
Like,
know, man.
does he
I don't
even
know.
want it?
But he's talked about how he wants to be a head coach in the NFL again. So I think he would. But regardless, I don't necessarily foresee that happening. So, Derek, I did come up with the candidate. And there's one guy, I was looking at NFL stats. I said, what's important in this division? What type of guy do we need? And I ended up, in terms of right now in the NFL who's proving themselves, there's one guy for me that sticks head and shoulders above the rest. Derek, he runs the number one rushing offense in the NFL. The passing offense is right now number 16 in terms of total yards per game. This offense is ranked third and fourth in total points per game. This guy uses a lot of 12, 13, and 22 personnel, for those who are unaware. 12 is one back, two tight ends. 13 is one back, three tight ends. 22 is two tight ends, two backs. And then prior experience, he has been an OC prior. Did not go well, but it was in a very dysfunctional situation before moving to this new gig. And since he's been at this new gig, he has elevated his quarterback to a point where he's actually won a MVP and had completely transformed this offense into a whole new identity centered around the running game. Derek, you know who I'm talking about. I can tell you clearly do, or maybe I'm just lying, but at least it came to me that you did. My guy's Joe Brady.
Okay.
Joe Brady, offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills. The moment he took over for Ken Dorsey, that offense's identity completely shifted, and it has improved dramatically. So far this year, there's been a couple bumps in the road. The offense hasn't been perfect. But for the majority of the season, that offense has looked spectacular. It's not an offense with one singular great receiver. It utilizes mostly in the passing game spread. But again, heavy sets in the run game, and James Cook has been fantastic for them. He has two talented tight ends in Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. And I just look at our situation here. I look at the demands of the AFC North. If you're going to win in the AFC North, you got to run the football. And I think that Joe Brady can fit that bill. He absolutely can. We have two tight ends who are immensely talented. With the usage that he has of 12 personnel, I think that it makes a lot of sense in that regard. He's been able to get the absolute most out of receivers that aren't really that great. He found a way to get Gabe Davis a $13 million a year contract. He's gotten some great production out of his wide receivers. He's gotten immense production. But most importantly, Derek, he has helped elevate the level of Josh Allen's play to a level that we've not seen. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, at least in the regular season, these past 2 years, he has been the best quarterback in football. He has. Only guy you can compare is Lamar Jackson. Patty Mahomes, fantastic in the playoffs as always, but regular season, past 2 years hasn't been that great. This is my guy. This is him. There's no guy currently that, at least on the offensive side of the ball, is doing the job that Joe Brady is. He, at the college level, was in charge of one of the best college offenses of all time. Like, looking back, that offense had Joe Burrow, it had Jamar Chase, it had Justin Jefferson, it had all of these guys and more. Honestly, there's more that I'm not even thinking of right now, but that offense was one of the best of all time. And he was part of developing those guys. He was part of conducting that offense in a way that it elevated everybody. And I can definitively say, with what he did at LSU and what he's done in Buffalo, he's gotten the most that he possibly could. And he's been productive as hell. And I think that there's nobody else out there right now in terms of who's in the NFL that is available for a head coaching gig that would fit better than him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say as far as the whole, I mean, ranting and raving about firing Kevin Stefanski, right? It all means nothing unless you can name alternative options, because that's the thing. That's what everybody does. It's like, oh, well, you want to fire him, who are you going to get better? And the reason why that, that is a fair argument in this circumstance, because listen, I mean, you're the Cleveland Browns. You've had a billion head coaches. You've had a billion quarterbacks. Everybody knows. You have a reputation. Like that. That's what it is. And for me, Tristan, if you go the offensive route, Joe Brady is the guy. Like if that's the way you go. For me, and I know you'll disagree with this probably, I'm almost certain. For me, I look around the league. I look around just kind of the AFC North. I look at where I think this team, where I envision the best route this team can go from here. You know what I mean? I think about it like that. I try to envision it from that standpoint. And I look around the North in particular, and I know it's not necessarily like the fair thing to say, I guess, because the teams aren't comparable. But I look around the North, the Steelers have a lot of success. Why? Because they have a guy at head coach. They have a dude who can run the show, right? And Mike Tomlin. Now, offensively, they struggled a lot, right? And that's been a whole thing. And that's the side of it that is the debate side of it. Baltimore, right? Harbaugh, been there forever. Defensive guy. He's a dude, runs the team, right? The offensive side of the ball, they hire, they leave it up to those guys. And, so much so that they literally restructured the entire team and offense around one man, right? And that's with a guy who's not even an offensive mind, a head coach, right? Then you go to Cincinnati, and it's Zach Taylor. And Zach Taylor, God bless his soul, but boy, he is on borrowed time with the Bengals. And then I look at Vrabes, and I see, because everybody wants to bring that up, like, oh, you had Vrabes in the building, and, you let him go, and look at now. And by the way, totally a shot at Kevin. Totally a shot at Kevin. What he said about, once they got through the gimmick plays, and then we were good from there. That is totally a shot. It's absolutely a shot. To me, Tristan, I look around, I think about it all, and I look at the guys available, and I'm like, man, do I want to take another shot on a young, hot offensive mind? Because I feel like that is what every team is doing now, and like it works sometimes, and then sometimes it doesn't. You know what I mean? For me, if you can do it. And I trust this guy to know people to do it. Go get you a guy who can just run the offense. Get you a trustworthy offensive coordinator that can call plays and run the offense and just can focus on that, right? If you can do that, it's tough because the Jim Schwartz side of it is the question. That is the big holdup for me. But, I take a look, Tristan. I look at Miami. And I look at what's happened with Tua. I look at what's happened with that whole team. And I say, you know what? I think Brian Flores deserves another shot at head coach. And I know it's not popular. Maybe it's not even smart, to be real. But thinking about it from where this team is to where this team needs to go, I think this team needs a dude. They need a real, legitimate leader. And I mean, no disrespect to Kevin when I say this, but Tristan, I'm looking at the faces, I'm looking at the sidelines, and I don't think this team gives a crap about playing for Kevin Stefanski. I don't think they're invested anymore. I don't think they're interested anymore in Kevin. I don't think they take him seriously because I think, it's tough with the Browns because Jimmy's the puppet master, and he always will be till he's gone. Till he's no longer the owner of the Browns. But, you need a coach that can, at the bare minimum, give the appearance that the owner is not meddling and in control over everything. And to me, the only guy, and I could be wrong, I haven't done a whole lot of work on it, but the only guy right now that's out there that I could see doing it and that I could trust doing it. And the model I'm going after here, Tristan, is Washington with Dan Quinn. They go out, they hire a guy who's got experience, he's respected across the league, got another chance. He's been great. They get an offensive coordinator. They can work with their young quarterback, and they have been great. Tristan, that's where I'm leaning. But those are the two, without a shadow of a doubt. Like, those are the two names I'm calling. The only other one, and again, I'm just going to throw it in real fast, Dan Lanning. If you do get Dante Moore, I think he would be in consideration. But I do think it is too soon for him. So,
yeah, the only thing I would say, and I know it's worked out for Washington, I would have a really hard time entrusting a rookie quarterback, because assuming we're going to draft one, entrusting a rookie quarterback with somebody who likely has either never called plays before or wasn't good enough at it to stick around as a head coach. Like, it's worked tremendously with Cliff Kingsbury, and that was somebody who I thought of for a little bit in terms of who would I want as the next head coach, but it was such a disaster in Arizona. I think I'd want to stay away from it. It was also a little bit different because Jaden Daniels was such a pro-ready quarterback coming out, where I feel like in this year's draft, there is a lot of guys who are pro-ready, but there's also a good chunk of them that aren't, but have really high ceilings. And so I think if you stick with a guy like a Joe Brady, somebody who you trust more to develop a quarterback than you would a Cliff Kingsbury, or at least like a defensive guy, I think that would end up being better. But I don't disagree with you in terms of a guy who's a leader. I would also argue that Jim Schwartz is... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because you said his name a couple times now, I just want to clarify. You do know I'm saying Brian Flores, right?
Yeah, Brian Flores.
Okay. I thought you were saying Cliff Kingsbury.
No.
I was like, I'm not saying that.
No. I was saying...
Gotcha.
I was saying in terms of the situation, which is what happened in Washington, which is where you had Cliff Kingsbury, who didn't work out as a head coach in Arizona, and now he's an OC. I just think it's a little bit more of a risk, especially with a rookie quarterback, and it, at least in my opinion, it limits who you can draft at the position, because you have to pick somebody who's essentially pro-ready. I don't disagree with you, though, in regards to that head coach needs to be a leader. Guys have to respect him. But I would also say Jim Schwartz has built up this defense and has built it up tremendously. I don't think the answer is moving off of him and moving to a guy that's a completely different defensive scheme. I don't think that's the answer, especially when you even look at our linebacking core. Like, our linebacking core is the best it's ever been, and we don't even have JOK, and he's coming back next year. So,
hopefully.
Yeah, that's what the reports are. So I'm gonna stick with those reports. If it changes, then so be it. But I just, not to mention also you've got Carson Wessinger, who I don't really think fits in a 3-4 that well. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see it. I think that your best bet is to stick with Jim Schwartz and get in a guy who you trust to develop an offense, because this offense is full of young dudes at the skill positions. And also you have a quarterback situation where you're going to have to have somebody that develops a quarterback. Like, this is a dire situation. So I personally think that Joe Brady's the best bet. You could look at some college guys, but personally I'm kind of turned away by that. The only guy really at college that I could see is Dan Lanning, but I really don't see him leaving. I think Joe Brady's the guy. But you look like you just saw something. Are you okay?
Dude, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to take away from what you were talking about, but as you were speaking there towards the end, the Washington Commanders threw a screen to Debo, and it bounced directly off of. It went like this. It went through his hands, off of his helmet, and into the Chiefs. I don't know if it was Willie Gay or whoever it was, right into their hands, and they ran it back for a pick six. That was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. But no, I completely agree, and that's a hold up for me with Jim Schwartz, and he's the ultimate question here. Like, I think, people say, oh, they're not going to fire Kevin till after the season, and I tend to agree. But I do think if it gets to the point that it's like too far gone, you do fire Kevin, because you need to see how this team would respond to Jim Schwartz. Because if Jim wants to coach in the NFL, if that's his goal, if he still wants to be a head coach in the NFL, and I'm talking like, because we're prepping long term here. I know nobody wants to hear it, but it's reality. The Dome is a big thing for them, and they're thinking, hey, are you going to be here for this time period and then moving and transitioning into the new era of the Browns, right? Those are the things they're going to try to care about, right? Don't care if people hate that, like it, whatever. It's just the truth. So if Jim wants to coach in the NFL and he wants to be a head coach for the next, let's just say, decade. Let's say he still wants to coach for the next decade. Then I think you do that with him. But if he doesn't want to be a head coach again, it's so tough. It's so tough. And that's the thing. None of this is good. None of this is good. Like, it's terrible that we're talking about this, because we thought prior to the year, hey, at least, Kevin's going to be on hot seat, but at least we feel good about that. We at least feel somewhat confident that we still got our coach, right? Now we're sitting here like, shoot. I don't know. I don't know how. And I guess this is going to be a good transition if you're ready to our next topic, but like, my thing is, like, I don't see a way out right now. I don't. And this whole conversation of the quarterback change, like, nothing good. And I know we've been ragging on Dylan for an hour and 30 minutes now, basically. Dylan and Kevin. But, like, we've seen 4 games. Like, Tristan, we talked about the timeline, right? Okay, first couple games with Joe, let's see how it goes. I said 6 games, I think, and you said somewhere around the same. Everybody kind of thought the same thing. Like, okay, Joe's going to get the first couple games, and then probably we're going to see what Dylan has, and then, okay, maybe at some point Shedeur. And now it's like, okay, well, Kenny's not here, Joe's not here, it's just the two. Okay, now we've seen 4 games of Dylan, and we're at the bye week, and it's progressively gotten worse. And it's to the point, I mean, you're the worst offense in the league, but it's to the point that legitimately, like the whole college versus NFL argument of like, could the college's best team contend with the NFL's worst team, right? That whole thing. I sound insane when I say it, but I really don't know if the Browns let's just say hypothetically, Ohio State plays the Browns, and the Browns offense faces Ohio State's defense. By the zeros hit the clock, does the Cleveland Browns offense put up 40 points? Not defense. I'm not talking about pick sixes or anything like that. I'm talking just strictly offensive scoring points. Do they put up 50 by the end of the game? I don't know. I really don't. And I would, if I had to bet my life on it, I bet they don't. And Tristan, the whole Kevin conversation, it is what it is. And we've been talking about it. We've been talking about that. But here's the thing. Dylan, I told you, what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I was done with Dylan. I kind of saw everything I needed to see. Tristan, all of those things and more came up in this game against the Patriots. 156 yards. Like, I don't, my biggest problem with Dylan is like the height thing matters, and it's important, and it's a negative, but like there are throws that he's just not simply making. Timing, whatever, like whatever way you want to try to evaluate, he's just not making some throws. And the other side of it is fair or unfair as it is to say, he's not seeing some of these throws when he needs to. And, you know, the first three performances of his NFL career, I could say, hey, offensive line sucks. You don't really have a lot. Like, I could make a lot of excuses for Dylan. He had some time against the Patriots. Like, if there was any game to really evaluate Dylan Gabriel, it was this game. It was this game. He probably had the most time that he's had. I can name, just off of memory without watching the film and really going back through, I can name you at least three that I can remember, wide open receivers for big time gains that he missed. You know, and quite frankly, I feel bad for Dylan because he's a backup quarterback. It's what he is. He's a backup quarterback. But right now, Tristan, he's performing like a third string or practice squad quarterback. And, you know, if we take the emotion out of it, that is the evaluation. Like, that's how he's performing. But when you put in context to it, it really does suck for him because he's not in a good spot. He's not. Offensively and from a weapons standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I know I was higher on Dylan than you. I still think he's a solid quarterback, but the situation he's in, he can't.
No.
As it continues, like there's nothing that moving forward is going to continue or is going to progress. Like that's really why I came to the conclusion about firing Kev tomorrow, and then that way Tommy has the opportunity to pick his quarterback. Whichever quarterback he picks, he can have the time to work with and implement the offense that he wants to run. Maybe it's not different than what we're running right now. Okay, whatever. But at least you're going to give that a shot and give one of these quarterbacks a shot with somebody different.